Even data collection is difficult. We have to conduct fisheries management, and before that, we need the stock assessment for the scientific management. We can find various methods if we have plenty of data. You can find them in the Western stock assessment textbook, but in data poor situation, the method will be limited. Even in a developed country where plenty of good data is available, we need data poor stock assessment because we can't get plenty of data from all of the stock. If the stock is local or minor, we'll face a data poor situation. In this section, I'll talk about the stock assessment and fisheries management in the data poor situation, which will be useful for the Asian small-scale artisanal fishery. For understanding the importance of fisheries management, I'll show you a schematic comparison of the production cycle. This slide shows the production cycle of farm and aquaculture. It starts from an empty pond. The farmer introduces seeds and feeds, and the fish grow. After that, the farmer catches all of the fish in the pond. Finally, the pond becomes empty, which is the same as the beginning. If the cycle comes back to the same state, it means sustainable. You can continue the same procedure forever. This is the production cycle of a capture fishery. In the beginning, fish are already there. They are reproducing by themselves. After spawning, the juvenile will come in to the fishing ground called recruitment. And they will grow, and then the fisher will harvest a part of the fish in the fishing ground. If the amount of harvest is well controlled, the state after the harvest is exactly same to the beginning, which means sustainable and you can repeat forever. However, if the amount of harvest is not well controlled, the fisher will compete and try to catch more. If the catch is more than the sustainable level, the stock will decrease. That's overfishing. If the harvest is very small, it is unnecessary to control the harvest. But if the harvest is large enough to decrease the stock, someone has to control the harvest to sustain the cycle. Even in the low efficiency artisanal fishery, overfishing will happen if the number of fishers is large. We have to consider fishery management even for the artisanal fisheries. For scientific fisheries management, the stock assessment is an essential process. It includes stock identification, including species identification. Moreover, the main part of the stock assessment is the estimation of the abundance and productivity of the stock, and finally, check if the current fishery is overfishing to the stock or not. This is a typical data for the stock assessment. The first is the catch statistics. It is a learning amount and it's fundamental data for the stock assessment. But it's sometimes very difficult to collect. So you can use the national statistics if the national statistic covers this species, but sometimes the national statistics is not reliable, or does not cover the minor species. The effort information is more difficult because if the gear is different, the meaning of the one effort, unit effort is different. You have to make the standardization of this effort. Species composition is important for the multi-species fishery, but are very difficult to identify the species, especially if the enumerator is not a specialist. It's very difficult. Age composition is the hardest information for the tropical area because in temperate zone the age character is clear because of the distinct season. But in tropical areas, sometimes the spawning season is very long or several times a year. Gross curve estimation is also difficult. You can use the length composition for gross curve estimation if you are using the FISAT or something like this, but sometimes the reliability is not good. So these kind of information is a bit difficult to collect in the tropical area and also for the small scale fishery. But you can get the CPUE from the logbook if the fisher keeps the logbook. It's much reliable comparing to the CPUE calculated from the total catch and total effort. And also the researcher go to the port, the researcher can get length composition data. It is very useful for the stock assessment. This is a list of the typical stock assessment methods. So the first is virtual population analysis. It's based on the age determination. And production model. This model uses CPV, YPR, SPR analysis based on the growth curve. So if the data is poor, these methods are not applicable. Catch-only method is a data poor method. Only the catch history is available. And feedback control length-based method will be more applicable for the data poor situation. You can choose the method by the data availability. This is the matrix of the required data and stock assessment method. So from the data availability, you can choose the stock assessment method. In artisanal fisheries in Southeast Asia or Asian countries, sometimes the data collection is very difficult because the port is very small and it's very difficult to get a large amount of data for one visit, or the sampling point is scattered. So if you collect the information from the enumerator, you have to employ many enumerator for cover this kind of scattered sampling points. And also the small port is allocated with poor access. It's very difficult to access. And the aging is difficult because the spawning season is very long, the summer season is very long, something like this. And also the species composition is sometimes difficult because many very much biodiversity and many species are catch at once by multi-species fisheries. In this situation, we'll recommend to use the feedback method and length method. For feedback method, the required data is CPUE. Essential data is only CPUE. And length method, the length composition is the essential method for assessing the stock. This is the very short explanation of feedback control that is appeared in Tanaka 1980. He is the pioneer of Japanese stock assessment research. So the idea is very simple. If you drive a car in mountainous road, the slope is upslope, so you will push the accelerator. Slope is down, so you release the accelerator to control the speed. Otherwise, the speed will decrease, increase, decrease, increase. It's very dangerous. But you can control the accelerator to stabilize the speed, and it becomes a safe drive. So if you know the fish is increasing or decreasing, you can control the fishery uh, 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 as the feedback control. This is the equation of the Japanese feedback control rule. Uh, and the Japanese feedback control rule uses the stock level. If the current stock level is high, this parameter is 1.0. If the parameter is low, the current stock is low, the parameter is 0.8 to reduce the catch quota. The equation looks like a bit complicated, but it's not difficult. What you can do is to observe the current stock is increasing or decreasing by using CPU-E, and you can control the catch quota by using this equation. So if the CPU-E does not correspond to the stock level, this method cannot use. This method is not reliable. This method may lead to overfishing. But CPU is reliable, you can use this method. It's a very good candidate for the small-scale fishery stock assessment. This method is already applied to many Japanese minor stocks and found successful. Simulation studies shows it's applicable for even for the multi-species situations. And only CPU for 3 years are required if the data is very ideal. So for more detail, you can find the paper appeared in Canadian Journal of Fisheries and Aquatic Science in 2019. Another recommended method for the data for situation is the length data method. If the catch or effort data is not available, you can get length composition if the researchers observe the landing. Adding this, you can get weight at length or length at maturity if you got some samples. That's very useful for the stock assessment. This photo is a survey at the port to collect the length composition by Department of the Fisheries, Thailand. They have collected length composition for many species for more than 10 years. It's very useful. Selective management is also one of the simplest forms of fisheries management. You can change the minimum size of captured fish or length at first capture by changing mesh size, hook size, or modification of the gear or the change of the fishing ground to prevent small fish catch. If the length at first capture is large enough, it will prevent not only the growth overfishing, but also the recruit overfishing. One of my excellent students is researching size selective management by simulation. This is an example of the result. In this case, if the mean length of the landed fish is more than 70% of the yield infinity, the current status will be MSY or underexploited. If you know the length at first capture LC or the fishing mortality F, you can assess the status more accurately. This figure also helps find the proper fisheries management measure for avoiding overfishing. As the conclusion of the keynote talk, I'd like to emphasize some recommendations. On the occasion of IAFA 2022, please recognize the importance of small-scale fisheries. Please consider stock assessment and fisheries management, even for the artisanal fisheries. The efficiency of the artisanal fishery is low, but it may lead to overfishing because the number of fish is very large. Don't use the data poor situation as an excuse not to conduct fisheries management. You get fishery management even in data poor situation if you select the proper method. Please check the data quality very carefully. If you use sophisticated models, but the data quality is not good, the result will be meaningless. It is called a GIGO, or garbage in, garbage out. As a specialist of stock assessment, I know the stock assessment is not easy. You may read textbooks, you may use software, and you may apply your data to the models for stock assessment. You can get result rather easily, but in many cases, the result is wrong or unreliable. If you apply the wrong result to the fishery, it may make the overfishing. The precious stock may disappear. Please don't hesitate to contact the specialist and work with experienced specialists for making proper fishery management.